Okay, we are live. Testing. One, two, three. And we are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Todd. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Scott?
Very good. Very good. I'm really, really pleased with the podcast. We've gotten a lot of really fine people giving us some compliments and lots of new listeners. So anybody that's listening, that's a new listener, we want to thank them very, very much. It's been a real ride. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. We're going to be discussing the latest episode, which is Protocol. And if you're watching, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below and we'll answer them. So let's talk about Protocol. It's the latest episode. And the first question I had was, what was your deal with the U.S. Customs? You said that they're the worst anywhere you've been. So why is that?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's first of all, they are generally very arrogant and very rude, and they give you a very cold feeling when you go in there. You know, I have checked in to U.S. Customs in New York, and St. Thomas, St. John, San Diego, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And every time, it's the same thing. It's like you're guilty of something until you can prove that you're not. All right, that's the attitude in general. But really, you can kind of just deal with that. That's okay in general. You can just deal with that. But one time I was checking into St. John in Cruz Bay, and there was a woman there that was quite notorious. And it's very bright, and you would come in with your sunglasses on, and she wouldn't let you in the office unless you took your sunglasses off so she could get a good look at your eyes. Okay, I get that part. I'll do that part. So she asks, do we have any vegetables or anything like that on the boat? Vegetables. And I said, making a mistake of saying, because I was on charter, and I had a group of people with me, and we were all standing in the office. As a family of 5, okay? And we all had our passports and everything in the ship's papers, and we were going to check in there. And then what they were going to do was I was going to take them over to Red Hook, which is across the bay from St. John, and they would jump in a cab and go to the airport and then fly home. Well, when I was sitting there, and she's this woman, I should say when I'm not sitting there, but I'm just standing there, and this woman just starts telling me that I have to have a letter from the BVI on disposing my vegetables, I became like incensed. And I skirted the issue. I couldn't check in, but I told the people, just go to the airport, get on your plane, they're not going to bother you. Which they did, and they happily got out of there. I went to the BVIs and asked them if they had a disposable vegetable letter that I could give to the customs people, and they said no.
They probably thought you were crazy.
Don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Wow. So she was asking for something that doesn't exist.
So, yeah, and in fact, it's the last time I was ever in St. John. I left after that, and I never came back.
Wow. So
even though my boat was flagged in St. John, so
that's funny. So we talked a lot about Palermo and Sicily, and I'd love to go there and explore the island. It's been a lot of movies. It was in was it The Godfather, where he goes back to Sicily?
Oh yeah,
yeah, and you touch on the Mafia as well in the story. Was there any other kind of interactions with the seedy underbelly there?
Well, Palermo at the time was kind of considered the seedy place in all of Italy. I forget how many districts there are. It's like 35 districts that are a part of the city. and each district had sort of its own don, mafia-wise. It was a very kind of oppressive situation. People seem to live in it, do it, go by it. There's a lot of warnings about it. I found in general that if you're just smoothing along, doing your own thing, most people aren't going to bother you in one way or the other. At that time, because I had met the judge and I had gotten more interest in telling that story from other people that were very, very tied into it. As far as trying to get rid of the mafia. I mean, in Napoli, they had a tremendous amount of mafia presence there. A lot of it was run out of Sicily. That's where the real godfathers were. And, with anything, it's like the New York Mafia, the Los Angeles Mafia, the Philadelphia Mafia. They're all families, kind of all vying for the same illegal products. But now I didn't have any run-ins with them. But I was aware of the security that was involved because banks were very afraid. Not so much the markets, wherever normal people could roam, they were afraid. They were really afraid of terrorists and terrorism. There was machine guns at guys with machine guns at different places. That was pretty cool. It's like if you like that kind of stuff, it's pretty cool. But yeah, that was.
It's not so cool when you're there.
That was the feeling. Yeah, it's like okay, that's great. I mean, it's almost like walking around in Texas or wherever, someplace that has you could carry your gun around all day and stuff like that. But I mean these guys have like machine guns.
Yeah. Well, they're the gendarmes, right? They're the police.
Yeah,
so.
They're the police.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Further on Palermo, so we talked about the Palermo market, which sounds great, and I would love to go and explore the market. What were some of your favorite things to get from the market there? I know you went into detail in the episode, but I'm just curious.
Well, I tell you, there was one man that's very, very famous for selling his Antipasto and for selling. What is it called when you mix like all the herbs and spices in an oil? I forgot the name of it.
Oh, like a pesto or like a oil, like an olive oil.
It was a pesto, but a very Italian pesto, not a Greek pesto.
Yeah,
a very Italian pesto, and he was actually quite famous for that. In fact, when I was in the market one day, there was a film crew from, I think, France. That was there, and he's got all kinds of pictures because he's a celebrity in the market, right? But I would say that the thing that I like the most is there's these little vendors that put up little barbecue stands, right? They have those little hibachis on some bricks, and they make these sticks with meat on it. I don't know what the meat is, and I was told not to eat the meat.
It was goat or lamb,
and it was delicious.
Yeah,
it was lamb.
Oh, okay,
it was delicious.
Yeah.
It was.
So, question for those people who aren't quite sure, what exactly goes into Antipasto? Is it mostly like meats and cheeses or veggies?
Well, no, it's an Antipasto is a selection of meats. Okay, the whole charcuterie of meats. All slices of meats. And olives and cheeses, and that's basically it's a big plate that is put on the table and everybody shares while they're having a drink. Yeah, sort of something. It's like an appetizer kind of thing. So, yeah, but I'm dying. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe if somebody's out there listening, they can send me the name of that. I'd appreciate that. I can't think of it right.
Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else on the Italian side. So it just sounds to me like it was a great place to be. Like they were very friendly, outgoing. I'm sure you've been there many times. Was there?
I've sailed all the way around Sicily and spent some time in Syracuse, which is actually not. It's Italian, very Italian, but it was founded by the Greeks.
Hmm.
And it's a beautiful little city. It's a beautiful little harbor. It's a very, very cool place. But I was going to say one thing about sailing out of Palermo, and it's something that kind of shocked me, to be honest, because it's illegal.
Hmm.
But nobody seemed to be stopping it, which is the fishermen go out and they put these bright lights over the water. All
Hmm.
right. And the fish all come up and they start looking up there. Then they light dynamite and throw it in the water and blow them up, and all the fish come up. And then they just scrape them in. I
Yeah.
had never seen, but I saw it twice. I saw it coming into Palermo once and going out of Palermo once.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It's
crazy.
like fishing for dummies, fishing with dynamite.
Yeah,
Do you,
and it was actually a stick of dynamite that you light, like,
yeah,
and they wait to the last minute and then they throw it in over the boat.
that's
It was
funny.
like weird. Okay.
So, what do you know anything about the history of Palermo and the port there? Like when it was founded or who it was founded by?
Oh, it goes back. It's been found. It was founded thousands of years earlier. The Phoenicians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, everybody was in. It's a natural port to start with. So anywhere you have a natural port, you go back to the first guy who's got a boat, and
Yeah,
that became his place. So, but it's cleaned up now. When I was there, they were talking about it, but now it looks like it's pretty nice. I'm looking forward to going back to to Palermo really soon.
yeah. Maybe we can go there for the show. That would be great.
Yeah, that
For
would
the
be great.
TV
Yeah, I'd love.
show when we go and film.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on to Barca, um, and the political climate there at the time, and I'm not sure it's much better now than it was then. It's probably worse now. Um,
Well,
so
yeah.
what was the political climate like when you were there?
Well, when I was there, the PLO and Yasser Arafat were in Tunisia. That was the home base for the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization. And when I visited, it wasn't a few months, it was a few months later, I think, that they actually left Tunisia and went to the West Bank and began into Palestine, right? And they were fighting a war with Israel, and there was a lot of things going on, and this is why there was a Mossad agent that we're pretty sure that she was a Mossad agent in the story. But the political climate was very anti-American, although the people of Tunisia, as I've been all over the world, the people are never anti anything. Their government is anti stuff, and they're
Yeah,
for the most part just cool and happy to meet you.
yeah.
So
Well, it's like that way in most countries where it's usually a fight among the politicians, and then the people are just trying to live their lives.
yes, exactly. So that was the climate. Tunisia had at the time they had a military, semi-military dictatorship. So there, yeah, security. It was the same old right-wing security apparatus kind of nonsense going on, and everybody was affected by it. Nobody was making any money, even though these countries do a lot of big things by opening up their ports, but you're limited. That's where they're open. The hotels and ports are there, and they're like an economic zone, tourist zone. If you go out into the country and you go out into other little small cities where they don't have that, it can be very oppressive and very uninteresting.
Yeah. Um, and so, what other things did you get up to while you were there in Tabarka in Tunisia?
Well, one of the great events, so to speak, was, as I explained in the story, the customs agent who I gave a bottle of Glenlivet Scotch to get into the country as part of my contribution to the Tunisian Alcohol Association. Um, he he had a cousin or brother, one of the two, wasn't quite sure, that was running a new thing for camel trekking. And what it was is the camel, you would go out on a camel and ride out to a Bedouin tent, all right, spend the night, eat lamb on the grill and all the rest of this kind of stuff. So he said, this is great. You got to do this. You got to do this. And we won't charge you, just a little bit, just to pay for it. But it's new and we're trying to get it to happen and all the rest of this kind of stuff. So I agreed. Mm-hmm. And I spent, we rode on this camel for 8 hours. Jeez. I don't know if you've ever ridden any animal for any amount of time. I was so sore. I thought I was going to die. Okay. And I actually told him, I said, I think you have to not have the ride so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've ridden animals, just not that far, not that long.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is right out of Tabarka, mostly all around Tabarka, there's the desert, of course, it's desert, but it's not like big sand dune kind of desert, although there's little sections of it. But there's a lot of cork trees. Mm. So there's this whole industry there of cork for wine bottles, right? There's this whole industry goes on. There's people out there working on that. So anyway, we go all the way out. We're in the desert. We got sand dunes here and there and everywhere. And one of the ironic things about this is they set up this Bedouin tent in kind of a valley of sand dunes. But if you went up and stood up on the sand dune, you were like sort of in a complex. Like there were houses and little towns all around you.
Yeah.
So you weren't really like in the middle of the Sahara Desert. There were people around, but it just felt like it.
Yeah. So it's like being in the suburbs.
Yeah, we were in the suburbs, in the Bedouin suburb tent thing, and so they had a lamb on the spit, and it was really charming. It was wonderful. And then it happened. Okay, they bring out the hookah, and what do they put in the hookah? But hashish. All right, and the whole time I'm thinking is that if I take one puff of this hashish, they're going to arrest me for doing drugs in this country because it's illegal. It's against the law. Like, severely against the law. But here is the police chief's custom agent's cousin/brother, all right, giving us hashish. I said, no, thank you. I don't want me to go to prison and my boat to be confiscated and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So the paranoia went through the charts. And they kept saying, no, it's okay. I said, no, but I don't smoke. I'm sorry. I'm good with that. And,
well, usually you get the paranoia afterwards, after you smoke it.
I just could. As soon as I smelled it, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be in prison. Like any minute now. They're going to come into the Bedouin town. And as an aside, I was in Turkey and I had a guest on the boat when we were in Turkey come up to me and he wanted to smoke a joint on the back of the boat. We were in Anchorage in Turkey. Mm-hmm. He said, hey, do you mind if I smoke a joint? And I said, hey, what? In Turkey? You want to smoke a joint? Are you mad?
Yeah.
Anyway, so these are things you forget drugs. Drugs is not a good thing to do. But yeah, that was my camel riding experience. I think I've got enough camel experience. And in fact, on the way back, we got off the camel and took a taxi for the remaining part of the trip.
So you're like, I'm done.
Do it. Yeah, I'm out. Done.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got back on the boat.
All right. Any other impressions of Tabarka? I mean, I've seen pictures. It's actually very pretty. It's not, when you think, Africa, you think Middle East, you think that area, you think it's all desert, but it's not. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. Tunisia is a beautiful, beautiful country. The whole coast, the North African coast, is beautiful. Even just saying North Africa, it's kind of like that has a sort of panache to it that I really love. But yeah, it's really beautiful. Algeria is beautiful. It's very French in some parts. Now, Libya, on the other hand, is more Italian because that's where the Italians kind of reached. But the sail from Palermo around, Sicily past what's the island, Lampedusa, which is where all the refugees are coming from Libya, and past that, Tunisia is not that far. It's actually a pretty short, day hop for the most part.
Yeah.
But then Tunisia is quite long, and then Algeria is much longer.
Yeah.
And then after Algeria, you have Morocco.
Yeah.
Okay? And the next little thing is a little place called Melilla. Is it Melilla? No, it's not that. I can't remember. It's a Spanish enclave. I'm going to write a story about this. I can't remember the name right now, but it's a military enclave for the Spanish, just like Gibraltar is English in Spain. This is Spanish in Morocco, and it's a tense political kind of weirdness. But I'll do a story on that a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other thoughts on protocol before we put this episode to bed?
Just for you boaters out there, remember that when you check in, have all your papers. Don't forget stamps and crew lists. And remember that to keep all your documents up to date. There's nothing worse than having somebody who cannot read your documents whatsoever look at the date and figure out that you're out of date on your documents. This happened to me several times because I traveled so much. The time that it took me to actually get the physical piece of paper was, for like my boat registration and stuff like that, it would expire like in August, and I would be in Europe in August, and I'd come back and I'd pick it up and wouldn't have it. So that's just a tidbit to have that kind of stuff, taken care of before you do it.
Yeah,
so.
get your paperwork done before you head off.
And eat everything. Just eat your way through everything. Try everything.
And when offered, and if somebody offers you hashish, say no, thank you. Especially if you're in Tunisia.
Yeah, because it's probably a policeman.
Yeah. All right.
Offering you the hashish.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, great talking to you. I'll talk to you after the weekend. All right. Have a good one.
Ciao, folks. Thank you very much for listening.
All right. Bye.